Well, basically you have two choices on this assignment. You could do the assignment name project, or you could go to the next one and do the unit fundamentals project, which is, if I click over here, it'll give me the project description, which is basically I have my choice of 3 programs to write. I'm going to show you how to do a couple of these. Well, first we're going to handle the assignment name program. How to print your name and print your favorite sports team. This is fairly simple. So what did I do in this program? Basically what I did was I opened up Visual Basic 2010 Express. This is what you're supposed to do your coding in, okay? Alright, it already gave me module, end module, sub main, and end sub. So in between there, I just dimmed a couple of strings. Okay? And the first thing I did was I told the I made these from the examples in the course, okay? So this first one tells me that I want to write a line to the console that says, "What is your name?" Okay? So then this comes back where the console is supposed to input read line, and the console says write line, your name is blank. So it reads whatever they answer, and it writes back your name is, and then it puts the input in that they put the name, okay? So then I ask a second question. What is your favorite sports team? So then they input the answer, and then the answer comes back, your favorite sports team is, then write line input. So what this looks like, I click debug, I just click start debugging. What is your name? You put in a name, put enter. It says your name is Miss Hadley. What is your favorite sports team? So I put in the Phillies, right? It just tells me my favorite team is the Phillies. So it's a very simple program. So that's one of them. So we've looked at how you would do the assignment name program. So how would you do one of the ones out of the fundamental unit project? There's 5 choices here, and any one of them are pretty easy. I mean, as far as writing a program's concerned. But we're going to look at one that most people are likely to attempt, like write a program that will average 10 numbers. Well, how do you go about thinking about that? First you get a number, then you add to the total, then you get another number, and you add it to the total for 10 times, right? Then you divide the total by 10, then you tell the user the average. That's pretty straightforward, and you can do that without looping. It would be pretty long. You declare, oh, I don't know, N1, N2, maybe all the way up to N10. And then you would have a calculation like, you put something like total is equal to N1 plus N2 plus N3, right? And then you would divide total by 10. Average is equal to total divided by 10. Then you would put a comment in there to tell the user the average. But that would be quite a long program, a lot of repetition to it, but it would be really easy to construct, right? So how do you make that shorter? Well, first you got to think about what you're going to do. And here's the way we've expressed it before. Okay? You get user input. The user puts in the number. Then you add the number to the total, right? We're just thinking it through now, the process of how you're going to instruct the computer how to do this. All right, now you're going to put in a loop. You're going to check to see if you've added 10 numbers. No, you go back through the loop. See, all you have to do is put that calculation in there. All right, it's quite simple if we're doing 10 numbers. But what if it was 100 numbers? Are you going to do this? Are you just going to write it out this way 100 times? No, you're going to do it this way because you just have one construction. And once you figure out the construction, you can put it for as many times as you want. You can put it for 10 numbers. You can put it for 100 numbers, right? So then what you do is you take your total, what the user has added, and divide that by 10, right? Then you output that number to the user, and you're done with the program. So once you've figured out what you're going to do, this is the basics of what it's going to look like. How do you go about this? Well, pretty much the way you go about it is you have to look for the examples in the lesson that show you how to do all this, right? So we'll look at the first one. Because we're going to see what variables we need. Okay, we're looking at this, and we see that we're going to need a variable for the input. We're going to need a variable for the total. We're going to need an index variable, how many times it goes through, right, for 10 times. And we're going to need we're going to need 4 variables, right? We're going to need average variable. So what does that look like? Okay. First you need to declare the input number. Since a person can put in a decimal, we will declare that as a double. We need a counter integer, just from 1 to 10, so that's just a plain old integer. Okay, what else do we need to declare? Obviously, we said a total we need to have a total. It needs to be a double, because you can have fractions, right? And the average itself can be a double because it can be, you're going to divide. Even whole numbers can end up being fractions. So what are the things we're going to dim? We're going to dim the total, and I decide to call my double total, double average, double input, and we're going to dim all those as double. And we're going to dim the counter as an integer. So that's so you decide what you're going to do, how you're going to declare your variables, what you're going to use. Obviously, the next thing you want to do is you want to prompt the user for input. So how do you do that? You tell the console to write out enter number. That's how it's written, right? And once again, you find this by looking at the examples you see in the unit. So the next thing you do is you're going to add to the total, right? So you're going to take the user entry and you're going to put the user entry into input. So you're going to store the user's answer in the computer. And it's going to be called double input. And then you're going to add double input to the total. So now we can decide which loop we're going to use. So now I'm here, right? And I add 1 to the counter. It's not, that step's not showed here. But when you check if he's added 10 numbers, you would add 1 to the counter. Actually, you do it up here. After you add to the total, you'd add to the counter. And int counter usually would express that as int counter plus plus, and that means int counter plus 1 is equal to int counter, okay? So now we're going to add a loop in here. Right after add to total, we're going to add our int counter. So we're adding 1 to the counter, and then we loop here if the counter is less than 10. There you go, less than 10. Can you format it as a for loop? Let's look. Here's our for statement. For index start to end. It's number of steps. That will work, right? For index 1 to 10 or 0 to 9, depending how you're going to count it. So I think it's simple enough to use as a for statement. What about a while statement? Well, here we can see just from the example here, while I is less than 10, you certainly can do it as a while statement, right? How about a do while? Well, I think we're going to do it as a do while actually. But you see that the only difference here with the do while is you do everything and then you loop. And I think this is going to be the easiest for our situation. You see some examples right here of writing to the screen, right? And reading from the program. So we can see we can loop it as a for loop on page D9. We can format it as a while loop on page D10. Or we can format it as a do while loop on page D11. And you can see this example here is basically a do while loop. Or, you know what? There's also a do until loop. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a while. You can loop while integer counter is less than, or we'll just put less than or equal to 10. So you have two ways of expressing it. You have a do while loop and a do until loop. And basically they're the same thing. Do while loop means do it until the counter is less than or equal to 10, or loop until the counter is 11. So we're doing do while, so this first one is probably more applicable for us. Well, we want to come up with our double average, right? So what will we put in that variable? We divide double total by our integer counter, which is 10. So then we need to give feedback to the user. And here I've combined a right line with a variable here. Put your averages with quotation marks around it, and then plus double average, and then a period. So I just want to show you how you can do that. Oh, I forgot. Well, I forgot the quotation marks up here. We'll just have to add that. So that's how it looks. And you can find this example in our example code throughout the lesson. So let's write our program and see how this looks. So now I just opened up Visual Basic 2010 Express. So I'm going to bring up a new project. We're going to do a console application. I click OK. So now I'm ready to enter my code. So the first thing I do is I declare my variables. Okay, the first thing we do is we declare our variables. We're going to have our first variable, dim double total as double. Make it equal to 0. Initialize it with 0. Now we're going to dim double average as double, and we're going to set that to 0. We're going to dim double num, this is what the user puts in, as double, Because he can put in a fraction, right? We're going to set it to 0. And we're going to dim int counter as integer. Equal to 0. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my do, because we're going to do it as a do while. Do. So now I'm going to do console. I have the console write line. So I want the going to write this to the user. Enter number. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put what he writes is going to be called double number. Double num equal to console dot read line. So now we're going to add this double total. And that's going to consist of the numbers that have been, the number he just put in there, double num plus double total, whatever the double total is already. And then we're going to increase the counter by 1. So we're going to loop when? While int counter is less than or equal to 10. And then once we get out of the loop, what we want to have happen. Once we get out of the loop, we want to do our calculation. Double average is equal to double total divided by the int counter. So then if we changed our interval, we wouldn't have to change our formula. Right? I didn't spell this right, did I? So now we go give our answer back to the console dot write line. Give our answer back to the user, your average is, so there's the quotation marks, right? So we're going to put an ampersand. So we're going to add the variable double average. Put our ampersand in there. So that indicates we're going to add another thing in there. We're going to add a period. Now I'm going to close the loop. Then I'm going to put console read key, so it'll wait. So I'm going to have console read key and just put the function there. So we're going to check our thing now. We're going to run our debug. I click debug, start debugging. So now it asks me for input. So I'm going to test this out, see how it goes. Let's put some random numbers in there. I'll put something that isn't a number. I guess I have to start over again. Start debugging. So there you go. Tells me my average, so that's right. It's pretty big. If you wanted to put it down to, you could always go use it as a single instead of a double. You know, you could have this infinity fraction going on here. So I can go back and make that change. I'll come out of here. And so instead of having my average as a double, I'm going to have it as a single. That'll change my answer. The other thing I wanted to change is I wanted to put something if they put in something that isn't a number. Okay? So I would put in some kind of a statement in here. But you don't have to get to that level of detail. This is plenty fine for now, okay? So you'd have to have something that would break out of the loop if it didn't work. So once your project is done, you're okay with it, you want to turn it in, what you do is you click Save. Then you go File, Save All. So it's going to ask you for the name of a project, and then what you're going to call it is, I don't know, put your name. We'll put Hadley Project 3, I guess. This is what we're at. So I can go Save. So what do I send Hadley? I just zip the whole folder, send it to her, figure out how to open it, right? That's pretty much it.